This week on the Rutledge Perspective, we're talking expectations. And we're talking about expectations because I had a conversation over the weekend that blew my mind. And because the show is talking about perspectives, this was a different perspective that I hadn't thought of, that was just presented in a way that I thought, ooh, we need to think about that, and lots to talk about. Now, in my career and leadership transformation summits and my advising practice, I always talk about expectations. And one of the key pieces to transforming your career or transforming your leadership is the whole idea of expectations. On the career side, it's not only managing yours, but understanding others when it comes to promotion or development, or what you expect the organization to feel and be like, what you expect your colleagues to act like, how you expect your boss to interact with you, how you expect your career to move, and the really incredible necessity to have conversations about those expectations so everybody's on the same page. On the leadership side, it's about setting expectations and being really clear. It's not unkind to be clear, and being clear about those expectations with the people who are looking to you to lead them. What you're expecting them to do, how you expect things to show up, how you expect them to engage, all of these kinds of things. Expectations are the root often of misunderstanding, of fear, of disappointment, all of those kind of things, right? Like there's all kinds of quotes about the best way to not be disappointed is not have expectations. But this weekend, we talked about expectations in a little bit different light. So this friend of mine I've known for over 30 years. And so as we met, every time I go there, I try to have lunch or dinner with him. And we always have such a great time. We have really deep conversations. We have really crazy conversations, laugh a lot. And so this time we were talking about what was going on in my business, some things he was starting to do that are just really exciting, and what that really meant, and what success looked like, and the need for funding your business, right? And funding your purpose, all of these kind of things. And we started looking at people, because of course it's LA, and we started looking at all these people who are successful, and success defined very narrowly, right? Talking about net worth and all those kind of things, and the power that high net worth can wield, and the freedom that high net worth can wield. You know, when you can just pick up a pen and write a check, there's a certain level of freedom in that. We just have to know that. So we started talking about these people, and we're looking at, these 24-year-old singers and rappers who are, 28-year-olds who are worth $24 million, and these other people who've been in the business forever who are worth $65 million. And then you look at the Warren Buffetts and the Gateses and the, Bezoses and all these people who have tons and tons of money, some of whom are actually doing extremely amazing, life-changing things on the community. There's some folks here in Houston who are really making an impact, using their dollars to make an impact on the community, which is fantastic. And so we started talking about, expectations, and how we put all this pressure on ourselves of what that should look like, what success should look like for us. And this friend of mine is money driven. He's one of the first people I really met that is truly money driven. And it's different. There are people who are money driven who want money because they feel they're entitled to the money, and you just need to pay them. This person is truly money motivated, but you get at least, if not exceptionally more than what you pay for, right? You don't pay him, you don't get it, but you pay him and you get more than you expected, right? So it's just a different tag. So anyway, so we started talking about these people who are really successful, and what that looked like, and what that meant, and the kind of power that can yield, and expectations. And he said, but those people from whom nothing is expected cannot disappoint abundantly. And I thought, oh, dagger to the heart, right? I mean, just mind blown. Because here's the thing. We seem to set a lot of expectations on ourselves, or our family set it, or society sets it, or whatever. But there are also these people, whole communities, in fact, that people expect nothing from. In fact, they expect less than nothing. And when there's nothing that is expected of you, all you can do is try. There's nothing for you to lose. There is absolutely nothing for you to use, because people expect you not to do anything. And so my dad used to always say, people will live up or down to your expectations. And I think that is really true. If you expect people to do nothing, they'll do nothing. If you expect people to do great things and you support them, they'll do great things. But there's another piece of that, which is often when you expect people to do nothing, you just write them off. These are the people who surprise you. These are the people who are willing to dig in and take a chance and take a risk and do crazy things because why not? People expect them to fail anyway, so they may as well try. And the power in that, the freedom in that, just literally blew my mind because it made me think about how we put upon ourselves this great weight of expectations. We're supposed to make fantastic grades. We're supposed to graduate early. We're supposed to be the doctor or the lawyer or the underwater basket weaver or the amazing artist, or we're supposed to be the Oscar winning actor because the Oscars were this weekend. We're supposed to be all these things that may or may not have anything to do with our heart's desire or the purpose that we feel we were put on this earth to fulfill. But the expectations begin to create pressure and begin to create sometimes discord between our desires and what we want. And we've talked about that theory, the polyvagal theory, the dorsal vagal and the sympathetic and then that ventral vagal when you're really in your zone of genius. And for those times that we've talked about career and the pressure of really doing those things that you don't want to do, where it's misaligned, where you're just dragging and procrastinating and having a hard time finding the energy to do this thing that you may want to do, but why do you want to do it? And why does it feel so bad to get it done? Because the expectation is that's the thing that's supposed to be done. That's the thing that has to happen in order for the other stuff to occur. And yet, there are people who do none of that, and are incredibly successful because they've just decided that, you know what, why not? One of the things that comes to mind, my friends and I have this conversation all the time, and we say, you got to be careful about people. You got to be careful about people. You think of somebody like Snoop Dogg, and when he first came out, people are blowing him off, gang member, thug, uneducated, all this kind of stuff. Don't sleep on Snoop. Look at what he's doing now. Look at the impact that he's making. Look at the visibility that he has. Look at the generational wealth that he's creating. And yeah, he's out there and he's got all this stuff and however you feel about marijuana and cannabis and all this, but he's making some stuff happen and he's able to make an impact. If you look at Jay-Z and Beyonce and Coachella, right? She actually went in, she took much less money for her appearance at Coachella, but she got her master's. She owned the stuff. She ended up doing Homecoming. Business mind, smart, intelligent. People expect her to be different. Now they don't. Now they know better. But people don't expect you to be thinking longer term. They don't always expect you to demand something different. Organizations, leaders in organizations, this is what gets you in trouble. This is why you lose great talent. Because you expect that people are not going to have a choice. They're not going to leave. You put those golden handcuffs sometimes, in great pay, great bonuses. They're not going to leave. We can treat them just about any kind of way. They're not going to leave. We're in a pandemic. People are so afraid to lose their jobs. It doesn't matter. They're not going to leave. Remember 2007, y'all. When the recession happened, people lost their jobs. Companies started just piling on people, treating them all kinds of ways. The minute the market opened back up, you had all kinds of turnover because people remember how you treat them. And so if you are expecting that people will just stay, they'll just tolerate poor leadership. They will tolerate that passive aggressive, that's not really what I meant. I hope you didn't take it that way. People are not stupid. And when you treat them that way and you expect them to just take it, or you expect that they don't know any better, those people that you blow off because they are silent or because they keep showing up, because they keep doing what you want them to do, and don't say anything, those are the people that are making things happen. Those are also the people that are going to be the first ones to leave. And they may or may not tell you before because of the way you've treated them. Because they expected to, at a minimum, be treated with dignity and respect. So I'm not talking about the fringes. I'm not talking about the really entitled people. I'm not talking about the folks that don't want to show up. I'm not talking about the people who want to be CEO tomorrow. I'm talking about your really high talent folks who are there to do good work and make things happen, who have bought into the mission and vision, and who you are just not leading well because you expect them to just take it. You expect them to do what you want them to do just because you said so. You haven't taken the time to understand who they are and what they want and why they're there and how you can really connect to that. Your expectations of them are just to do what you tell them to do. It's even worse in a remote situation where it's harder to connect, it's harder to align. So that whole idea of removing expectations being actually a gateway to freedom was an incredible insight from this friend of mine. Sometimes the expectations that we set on ourselves actually can paralyze us, can put us in a position where we are so worried about meeting the expectation that we lose sight of what we're trying to do and why we're trying to do it. We're only focused on doing the thing that we think we're supposed to do because somebody else said so. And those folks who nobody expects anything from, or they know people expect them to do nothing, have in some cases more freedom than the rest of us who have so many expectations put on top of us, who are supposed to do stuff, who gotta do something, who need to do something. And the folks who are just there doing their thing and making it happen, then all of a sudden people are like, oh, wait, now we expect them to do better. We expect them to have some input and some say because they have demonstrated that they can with or without support. But if you really pay attention to the people around you, if you pay attention to your people, leaders, if you pay attention to your people, HR folks, if you pay attention to the leaders and the folks that walk in that line between the business and the employee advocate, if you really watch people and pay attention, if you really think about where you're trying to go and why, and intentionally manage expectations, being really clear and opening your mind and checking your bias at the door around who can and cannot do or do not whatever it is that is necessary, you might be truly surprised by what happens. Because great things come out of the smallest spaces, the most unknown places. And those are the things that can give us the most joy and can get us fastest to the thing that we really want. So this week, think about expectations in a different light like I'm doing. Try to put those expectations in the right bucket. It's great to lift people up and expect them to do better because often, especially kids and especially kids in communities of color, have so much pressure to say you're not going to be anything. And that's why representation matters for kids to see. You can't believe what you've never seen, right? You can't aspire to what you've never seen or never heard of. So there is some truth in setting expectations of possibility and greatness and achievement. There is real value in that. There's also value in understanding that sometimes expectation can be taken to an extreme and end up being in pressure as opposed to just uplifting. So think about the people in your life. Think about the kids, especially in your life, or the young people in your life who are trying to make something happen and just trying to survive. How are we managing our conversations with them around expectations? How are we managing our own internal rhetoric about expectations and setting something that is realistic so that people can be the best they can be and show up the way they can show up? And there's always people on the edges, right? It's a normal curve. There are going to be folks who always exceed expectations, yours, mine, theirs. And there are always going to be people who never live up to anybody's expectations because they just don't want to. You've got those people on the edges. But most of the people who are kind of in the middle of that curve, the normal curve, are just trying to do the best they can. And if some of them you can pump up and tell them they can do it and set expectations that say, we know you can make this happen, that's the thing. And others, if you just don't set expectations on them, they are going to rise and shine because they have the freedom to just be who they are. So think about that this week. How are you setting and managing expectations for yourselves and for others? And let me know if that blew your mind as much as it blew mine. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Rutledge Perspective this week. I always love spending this time with you, and we'll catch you next time. Take care. You've been watching the Rutledge Perspective. Thank you for tuning in. If we have given you a different perspective, or if you've learned something new that you hadn't thought about before, please subscribe to the Rutledge Perspective podcast where you get your favorite podcasts, and give us a like on iTunes or Google Play or Stitcher. We really appreciate it. And your feedback is important as well, as we use that to inform our next episodes. You can also head over to my website, laurelrutledge.com, and download a freebie called Where's My Mojo that can really help you get out of your rut or maybe talk you back off that ledge of frustration. You can also find previous episodes of The Rutledge Perspective on laurelrutledge.com. I really appreciate your tuning in. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.